Please, this is not an order. If you like the content, don't forget to like and subscribe our channel for more comments and discussions. The world is often plagued by malicious acts that disrupt the security and balance of societies. In several countries, there have already been a large number of terrorists who have committed atrocious and cruel acts that have harmed people. A terrorist is defined as any person carrying out acts of violence such as attacks, hostage-taking, etc. to blackmail a government or to satisfy hatred towards a community, for example. We are going to talk about a terrorist who has been known in the United States for having sown terror in the country for 18 years. Ted Kaczynski, by his full name, Theodore J. Kaczynski, is an American terrorist known for his parcel bombs. This terrorist, more commonly known as Unabomber, died this Saturday, June 10th, while he was detained at the Butner Federal Medical Center. He was 81 years old. Mr. Kaczynski was found unconscious that morning and received medical treatment, but he did not survive. He was rumored to have committed suicide, but the Federal Bureau of Prisons did not specify the cause of his death. Ted Kaczynski was a native of Chicago and known to be a brilliant mathematician before he started his terrorist acts. Despite his intelligence, his psychological state was unstable, as he had participated in an abusive and shocking psychological experiment that led to him becoming a hermit in a cabin in Montana. He had terrorized the country by sending 16 bombs, which were concealed in postal parcels, to various people and businesses. His terrorist acts resulted in a total of 3 deaths and 23 injuries. His main victims were a California computer store owner, a middle-aged publicist, and the president of the California Water and Forestry Association. His other victims who did not die were seriously injured and either lost their fingers or lost the use of a part of their body, such as their eye or their hearing. The Unabomber crimes were carried out between 1978 and 1995. However, from 1987 to 1993, Unabomber was not active, and no bomb packages were sent. It was not until 1994 that the terrorist resumed his activities. He was captured only in 1996 by hundreds of Federal Bureau of Investigation (FBI) agents. It turns out that it was his brother and sister-in-law who reported him to the police. Thus, on April 3, 1996, America's most wanted terrorist was captured, which was a huge relief to the American people. His hunt was considered the longest and most expensive the United States had seen in all of its history. After identifying the culprit behind the parcel bombs, the FBI discovered his lab in Montana, where he made his bombs and sent them in parcels. Authorities had to monitor the area where the suspect appeared to be hiding for 18 days, as the area was extremely rural, and they were able to clearly locate him only on April 3rd. Unabomber's lab was not supplied with water or electricity, which made its detection difficult. Hundreds of bomb-making chemicals and components were found in his workshop, and a ready-made bomb that was meant to be sent was also found. Investigators found a diary containing thousands of pages where the terrorist Unabomber wrote down all the steps he took to manufacture and perfect his bombs in package form. Theodore Kaczynski was a gifted student who trained at the prestigious Harvard University. Thanks to his skills and intelligence, he was able to become a professor of mathematics at the University of California at Berkeley. He had an IQ of 167, which is significantly higher than the average, and was able to enter Harvard at the age of 16, which is a real achievement. Moreover, he becomes a professor at the university when he is only 25 years old. Kaczynski became a terrorist because he was against progress in technology. His nickname, Unabomber, comes from the phrase university and airline bomber, because his first targets were academics and airlines. A few months before his arrest, Unabomber claimed that he would stop his terrorist acts if the New York Times and the Washington Post published the 35,000-word manifesto he wrote, titled Industrial Society and Its Future. In this writing, he expressed his hatred of technology and the modern world and explained the reasons for his terrorist acts. It was upon seeing this manifesto that Theodore's brother recognized his handwriting and alerted the police. Theodore Kaczynski had been living in seclusion from his family for several years, but thanks to the efforts of the police, they were able to find his location. After his arrest, he underwent medical examinations, which clearly showed that he was suffering from paranoid schizophrenia, but despite his mental illness, he could not escape the prison sentence. In 1998, he was tried and sentenced to life imprisonment after pleading guilty. He had decided to plead guilty in order to escape the death penalty. It turns out that during all his years in prison, he maintained correspondence with various people, including journalists, hardcore supporters, and students. Ted was held in a high-security prison in Florence, Colorado, and was transferred to Butner Federal Medical Center in North Carolina only in 2021. After he was captured, many people questioned the ideology of Mr. Kaczynski, and others thought his crimes could be justified because their motive was rational. However, the victims of this terrorist quickly rose up against anyone who seemed to view the actions of Unabomber from a positive point of view. Specifically, they went against anyone who agreed with the manifesto Mr. Kaczynski drafted before his arrest that claimed his ideas were rational and fair. During his trial, his lawyers brought back several proofs of his bad mental health and his madness. They tried to show the judges that Mr. Kaczynski was not acting rationally, but their attempts failed. Before he published his manifesto, Unabomber was seen only as a violent terrorist who targeted random victims and was highly wanted by the FBI. When it was active, Americans were terrified of receiving packages and having to open them because no one could tell if they were booby-trapped or not. His workshop, where he built his bombs, was a hut he had built himself in the middle of a forest. Mr. Kaczynski had secluded himself in the forest and abandoned all forms of civilization. He ate only the game that he hunted and lit himself with candles. In his manifesto, Kaczynski focused on the fact that the development of technologies caused considerable damage to the environment and led to the destruction of certain foundations of modern society. After reading this manifesto, a small group of environmentalists supported its words and ideas, but the rest of the American population did not buy into its way of thinking. He also said that the rulers of the world were the only ones who had control over the existence and life of society, while primitive man could manage his own problems on his own. In other words, he asserted that modern man was not free and was always compelled to follow the commands of his superiors. This terrorist justified his criminal acts by saying that it was the only way to impact the public in a lasting way by showing them the reality of modern societies. After that, the term Unabomber entered people's vocabulary and was used to refer to intelligent people who have terrifying impulses. Now that several years have passed, some of Mr. Kaczynski's predictions are turning out to be true, such as people becoming more and more dependent on technology. A documentary on Unabomber was published between 2017 and 2020 on Netflix in order to show new generations who this terrorist who had terrified the United States before his arrest was. Theodore John Kaczynski's parents owned a family business and were descendants of Polish immigrants from the Chicago area. Ted's intelligence was noticed at an early age because he had high intellectual abilities. He skipped grades and was always considered a person of extreme intelligence. He quickly passed from one level to another and obtained diplomas easily, which captivated his classmates. Mr. Kaczynski wrote several very distinguished works, which brought him great popularity in the scientific field. After extensive research on his acquaintances, investigators discovered that he had no friends and that the majority of his classmates did not remember him. Unabomber may have developed his criminal intentions after he was cut off from society and lived alone in the wilderness. In recent years, several terrorists and even businessmen or students have quoted the Unabomber manifesto, which proves that it still has an influence on people. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more reviews and discussions. Thank you for watching.